Hello, my name is Chuck Sakar, Global Partner Marketing Manager here at Progress. So I want to thank you all for attending today's Sitefinity Partner webinar. Today's webinar is titled All New Content Creation Experience. With the release of Sitefinity's reinvented content creation experience, users will have an innovative platform to manage content. Today, Chris Doran, Senior Manager Progress Product Marketing, will introduce you to some of these new experience and share what's new and how this will improve end user productivity. During today's webinar, you will see initiatives undertaken in reinventing content management, preview of what the new experience will look like, and finally, estimates of when this will be released. With that brief intro, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Chris.
Thanks, Chuck. So today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Sitefinity 11.0. We introduced this topic about a year ago at the Sitefinity Summit. We've been hinting at it for a long time, and we're getting very close to releasing it. And so my goal today is to give you more information, give you a preview as to what's coming. Internally, we've sort of called this Web Content Reimagined, but this is going to be the new experience for content editors and authors within Sitefinity. We'll focus in on those aspects of Sitefinity 11 today. As with anything in technology, we have to do a disclaimer. Today, I'm going to probably show you some screenshots and talk a little bit about what's coming. As you might expect, software development is fluid. So view this as more of a roadmap presentation. Things in this may change or may not look exactly this way when it is finally released. We hope that the experience that you see today will be exactly what you'll see when it's released. But based on feedback and continued work by our development teams, things may change a little bit. But hopefully, the information in this will be beneficial to everyone. Before I get into the aspects and the details of what's coming in the new content management and authoring capabilities within Sitefinity, I want to set the stage a little bit, talk about how we got here, why we focused on improving this aspect of Sitefinity. To start, I want to highlight our mission. You may have heard us talk about this, but the goal of all of us here at Sitefinity is to help organizations, both large and small, engage with customers and to do more business online and to make it easy to do that business. And so when we look at that, we sort of want to take a step back. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we see happening in the business world today that sort of led us to this point. And so when we look at things and we look at them from a content author's perspective, we see that the importance of content has grown and the management of content has become more important. We identified this back in 2016 that what our experience was driving today from an efficiency perspective really needed to take that next step in its evolution. Back then, we took a step back and we started planning on how to scope this out. And so we spent a lot of time developing a focused effort to, one, improve what our developers, what our front-end folks need to do to build compelling digital experiences. And then the second phase of that plan was the focus on the content authors because of the importance, as I mentioned, of content. When you look at the importance, you think about the content, it's really changed because of the new customer dynamic. The new customer experience dynamic, it really falls on the demands of the customers that we're trying to reach, our current customers. They want the experience to be tailored to them. They want to get what they want, where they want, and how they want. This creates a nightmare for any content creator. We'll talk a little bit about the content creation process here, but when you think about it, the delivery mechanisms or the channels that are used to promote content have changed. And this creates new challenges in the way that we create content. So not only do you have the pre-existing challenges that were set out in just creating content and the process of doing that. Now you have another challenge in getting it out to that audience, reaching them where they want to be reached. And this is a struggle for any type of organization and of organizations of all sizes. We've identified that. We consistently see that. We hear that in our feedback and the conversations that we have. And so when we set out on this plan, we wanted to address it. And hopefully this is just the first step in making it easier for content creators. When we started our plan, we identified something that we call enterprise scale web content management. With this, we identified 3 factors that were critical to evolve, to reach that next step from a content management perspective, and to really get that enterprise scale of web content management. So really at the time we saw the convergence of all the challenges with content creation and other forces coming together to sort of drive the digital experiences for this enterprise scale. And we identified 3 important factors that are critical for this enablement: cloud enablement, scalable content management, and scalable developer tools. If you recall earlier on one of my slides, I talked about 2016, we developed a strategy. When we saw the opportunity, when we narrowed it down, and we identified these factors, as I mentioned, we created a multi-phase approach. We've been working hard from a cloud enablement perspective and creating scalable developer tools. We've released features focused on this in Sitefinity 10, and we're actually going to be releasing some more cloud enablement features that make Sitefinity easy to deploy on Microsoft Azure and Amazon's AWS. And we're going to continue to provide more scalable tools for the developer. And with Sitefinity 11.0, we're going to now take advantage of the tools that we have built to create a scalable content creation process and remove some of the friction or barriers for the content authors, for the content managers, and for the content promoters. So our view of all this, when you bring everything together, everything that we've been working on, we really believe that Sitefinity can create this enterprise scale within our entire ecosystem. So if you look at what I call in this slide the Sitefinity solution, it's really a convergence of what the Sitefinity platform enables you to do with our tools out of the box, and then integration with a lot of great resources. And as I mentioned, with all the complexity related to channels, that integration is critical for content to be promoted to the right channels, to achieve that the goals that we set forth in the new customer dynamic, right? What we want, when we want, how we want it. So let's talk a little bit about 11. As you can see from the images here, we're really trying to clean things up. We're really trying to make it easier. We are reimagining how you work through. The capabilities that we're releasing with this, again, are focused on efficient content creation that's rooted in relationships with the developers. Everything should be clean. Everything should be easy to find, focused, so you can manage the task at hand. Our goal is to have less distraction, improve the ease of use, have a focused interface, and make it desktop-like so that anyone who's used to working in any productivity application can easily come on board with Sitefinity and take control of that content process. As we do this, there are 3 key things within that experience that we focused on. The content, right? That's the easiest one. The relations or relationships between that content and the different channels. Also, the relationships of the different organizations and groups that are working on content throughout the process, and the relationship to the organizations and groups that are working on the digital experiences. And ultimately, by focusing on those relationships and focusing on the streamlined management of content, we're improving productivity. And that productivity improvement leads to a benefit from a customer experience. So before I get in a little bit further, I wanted to talk through this sort of simple process about how content is created. I'm going to do this to illustrate some of the things that we saw as opportunities when we went and focused in on improving that content experience process. So if you think about content today, if you look on the left-hand side, it sort of starts from one of two ways in a simplistic way. Either someone has an idea of a great piece of content to write, or we've identified a need. Maybe we've mapped our customer journey and saw that there were gaps. Maybe we don't talk about the product in a particular area of the customer journey, or maybe there are gaps within the funnel. Once you've identified a need or you have an idea, then you go into research mode. And this is really the pre-process of trying to determine, how are you going to create this content? What is it going to look like? What are the needs in the market? And getting the information, sometimes data points, that's going to be helpful for you, the content writer, to go and create this content. From there, we actually go into creation. We spend the time writing the content. Now, we know a lot of the content creation process can happen in multiple different tools. Some people work in applications like Microsoft Word. Some people will work directly in their CMS. Some people will work in other tools or technologies that maybe they've built or they're licensing. But in some way, this content is being created. Throughout this process, there are multiple groups engaging in it. So after it's been created, it goes into an editing process. And that can be done via tools, or it can be done via a process where individuals are reviewing that content and editing it and working back and forth with that content creator to improve and streamline. Make sure it has the right voice. Make sure it is on brand. From there, then you go into publishing mode. And this is where, we identified early on, that becomes sometimes a challenge. What channels do you publish it to? Has the form that I created, maybe a PDF, is that friendly for the channel that I'm trying to post it to? Is it too long for a specific channel? And through this process, we often see content merged, edited, changed, and sometimes you go back to the start of the process and try to rewrite it. From there, once it's finally published to the channels, whether it's web, mobile, or anything else, now you've got to drive awareness. How do I get people to see this? How do I reach the customers that I want? In this simple diagram, you can see there are a lot of questions, and it's a big challenge. We're trying to address it. And I'll illustrate that a little bit. I'm going to change this process in one simple way. We're still going to have an idea or a need, and that will kick off the process. Research will happen. Creation will happen. But let's say about the time of creation, which we know sometimes can take a month or so, that you have maybe an employee leave the company or go to a new job, and you've hired someone new or moved someone in the organization to now own the creation of this content. Typically what we see is this derails the process. This creates a lot of friction, slows things down, and sometimes you have to start over. Our goal with our content creation process is to minimize the disruption. Regardless of the tools that you're using, we're making a focused effort on content creation and making it easy so anyone, if they're new or are reassigned, can easily come into Sitefinity and manage content. The process should be seamless for any transition. Now, if you keep going, that new person may go ahead and finish the creation. You'll have an editing process, publishing, and awareness, and you'll go through the same processes before. But this person who is the content creator may have a different view, and their collaboration and impact and influence of the others within this process may be a little bit different. But having the tools and relationships necessary streamline that is pretty critical to drive impact, to hit your goals, to hit the timelines that we need to hit, and ultimately to reach the customers in the way that we want. These are the things that we've identified, these what I call disruptions in the process, as opportunities as we streamline our content management process to minimize some of the churn, some of the disruption, and some of the impacts that we typically see from organizations through the content creation process. So I'm going to use that illustration to kind of hit our goals again, right? I talked about removing distractions, to simplifying the process, the way that things look, and just to streamline that content creation through the focused interface. Then, I talk through, if you think through that process and all the steps involved, and potentially the different tools, right? Having a simplified tool set that is focused on the task at hand and removes distractions is the primary benefit and the primary need in the content creation process. As we went out to develop Sitefinity 11, we took this approach, de-emphasizing some of the secondary tasks and really having that focus and effort with menus that collapse and expand so you can easily make changes as you go. For example, write content and then optimize it when the time is appropriate. And then finally, it's all about easily integrating within the organization, right? I used the example of an employee change really to showcase a focus of ours with this. Any tool is only as good as the adoption, and we recognize that. So existing employees, when they get a new tool, they need to adapt to it easily so they can be more productive faster. And new employees really need to be able to adapt to it faster so that they can easily be more productive. So having an interface that's focused, streamlined, and as I mentioned, desktop-like will really help that onboarding, will help us see an ROI on the activities that we're doing on a daily basis, which ultimately can impact your customer experience, which then ultimately will help us drive more business. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the look and feel with Sitefinity 11 here to give you a preview of what's coming. We're going to have more previews coming up. Really, we wanted to focus in. We've been talking about it at a high level, and I want to sort of drive more information to you about what's coming, right? So in this example, we're going to look at a blog, and you'll see how focused everything is, how streamlined it is. You'll notice that as a lot of our screenshots have shown, it's white, very bright, and engaging. Ultimately, the goal here will be to focus on creating that blog content. So starting the process, right? Let's say we have a blog. It's called test posts, right? So I was in an environment and I created a test post blog. Maybe if in the real world, I would create a Chris Doran blog. But I'll go in there, have a blog. In this example, you'll see that I have no posts, but it's simple, right? I go to the blog section. I see the title of the blog, and it's very clear that no posts have been created, and focuses me in on what is the one task that I should or shouldn't do here. Well, let's create a post. Ultimately, that's what I did. I clicked the green button to create a post. What it did is it brought up a page. At the top, you can see I created a title called Test Post 1. And then I started to write content. So I'm really focusing in on that content writer. So I wrote, as a content writer, I need to focus. And I know for me, that's something that is important. As you can see from this, the task at hand here is the main focus of the screen and the experience. Writing the content itself is what I need to do. And so we've created an experience here that only focuses on that content writing process. Below, you'll see in the screen capture, cuts it off a little bit because the page does scroll down, but you'll see that there are for example, categories and tags with an arrow next to it. That button allows us to expand that section. And this really takes into what we talked about from not having a focus screen to create the task at hand, but then having sort of secondary task minimized. So they're not distracting, but they're easily accessible when we want them, so that we can easily get to that task when we're ready. And so to show that, you'll see as I scroll down the page, I can easily, after I've created my content, I can add my categories and tags. If I want multiple URLs, maybe I'm doing some social campaigns with this and doing some tracking, I can use multiple URLs. I can add topics. Here, custom fields, so we have a taxonomy, so I wanted to demonstrate how we're doing that. And then the SEO tools, I talked about promotion. Those are easily accessible at the bottom of the page. What you'll notice is after I finish that content creation process, I'm at the next step, and everything that I need is focused and easy to use here. Very clean and very, very, very simple to just put in the information that I need. So that's a small preview as to what's coming in Sitefinity 11, why we've decided to take on this task of sort of reinventing our back-end experience. And I really hope that you get a good feel for how we're improving the experience overall and why we did it. I want to summarize it in a few points here. We've talked about content authors, managers, editors, everyone involved in that content creation process. We focused in our efforts on this back-end reinvention, on their experience to make their jobs easier, to make them more productive so that they can build content much quicker. And overall, they can be smarter about how they create content, how they manage it, and optimize it. I do want to say that with Sitefinity 11, the reinvented backend or reinvented content management experience is only part of the story. While it is our major focus, as I mentioned, we viewed critical pieces as cloud enablement, content, and ease of use for developers. And we're going to have more features coming out for them, for everyone, for them in the developers, and the individuals focused on driving front-end experiences. So overall, there's going to be a robust feature set that will come out that will enable us to take advantage of the productivity and ease of use for content editors so that we can build end-to-end beautiful digital experiences across any channel, web, mobile, what have you, and ultimately to drive that customer experience that is necessary in this new customer demanding environment. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And now I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Terrific. Thank you, Chris. This is Chuck Sicard, Global Partner Marketing Manager, and Chris is on as well. So, Chris, one of the questions posed is, when will the new backend be available for us to use?
Yeah, Chuck, we're targeting the release of the new backend midsummer, early summer, timeframe. So, think about, what are we getting ready to start April, kind of about 3 months, 2 to 3 months from now.
Excellent. Another question is, will I be able to access both experiences, or will I have to migrate completely to one experience?
Yeah, so this is, we really thought through a lot what the experience would be like as part of the transition. And I mentioned a little bit in the discussion, I used the example of a new employee coming on board. I mean, we want to think through that as you change your system. So I'll take 2 examples to sort of discuss it. If you're currently running a Sitefinity website, let's say 9.2, and you determine that you want to upgrade to 11.0, as individual users log into that new backend experience of that website that's been upgraded, they can most likely will default to the original or old experience. they'll have the option to easily toggle over to the new experience. The other example I mentioned was if you are launching a brand new website on 11.0, by default, you'll have the new experience when you log into the backend. But we want it to make it dynamic. So at an individual user level, they'll have the option to choose or toggle between which experience they want. And they'll also have the option to choose what will be the default experience that they have when they log into the site.
Excellent. Chris, there is we have time for one more question that came in. With the simplified interface, will we still have the options available, in parenthesis here, default pages, default permissions, custom columns, and list views?
Yes. So we're not. The goal of this was not to remove functionality. It was to make it easier to access that functionality. And if anything, we're looking to continuously add new features. We always consider feature requests that we receive, as well as the changing dynamics of managing a website. So the plan when this goes live is to enhance that experience that you have, make it easier to find the tools that you're used to, and then offer some improvements to those.
Excellent. So with that, I want to thank you once again for joining this month's webinar, and thank you very much.